House of the Dragon. I expected better from you. You disappointed me. Welcome everybody, I'm RJ of The Nerdy Brew, and here on this channel we talk TV, movies, and everything in between, all while drinking a cup of coffee. Now if you like one of those things, or all of those things, won't you consider like, subscribing, and hit that notification bell, and becoming a fellow brewster. So first and foremost, spoilers. So, I want to talk about House of the Dragon. I was disappointed in this most recent season, and it's quite vocal among the fans of the show. It wasn't hot garbage like season 7 and season 8 of Game of Thrones.
If you could describe the season finale of Game of Thrones in one word, how would you describe it?
Disappointing.
But it was definitely a step down this season. I want to talk about the positives and the negatives of this season. This is not a formal review. I just feel like there was a tonal shift that made this season less impactful. So for me, I'm a book reader of Fire and Blood, and that time period for season 2 could have been so rich. I read Fire and Blood after season 1 because I wanted to be nosy. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. And then I reread Dance of the Dragons, that particular section of the book, so I could be refreshed coming into season 2 before it premiered. And that goes into Aegon III's reign. And I just wanted to be familiar, and I read that back in March. So, you know, when the season was coming up in June, I could be all up to date and anticipate these things from the screen or from the page coming into live action. Season 1 was my favorite show of 2022. I say why in my top 10 of 2022. You can go watch that here. Wherever it may show up, please go watch that. But I still feel like season 1 is top tier television. But I do have my gripes with the show. I want to talk about what I enjoyed and the positives in this season. The first half of the season was character driven. Seeing Rhaenyra grieving over Lucerys when she got off her dragon. I don't know the name of her dragon, but when she got off of her dragon and she was dealing or trying to find solace or understanding of what happened to him, I enjoyed that very much. And then having it immediately after season 1 was very impactful and made the season come off to a great start. With her comforting Jace when they reconnected, it allowed him to cry, and they cried together. It was such a beautiful moment. I loved after the patrol that Daemon went to Rhaenys and said that she could have ended the war before it began. And she didn't have any words to say, and she just simply walks off. I enjoyed that very much. And then the fight between Eric and Cargyle, the twins, was a great moment in the show. I loved it more in the book, but for the adaptation in the show, it was amazing showcase with great performances, great action, great tension, and sorrow in that scene was just a highlight for me. But Rhaenys, the queen that never was, the Lady of Driftmark, Rider of Melees, played by Eve Best, was such a jewel this season. Her spending time with Corlys, showing that they were married and not bitter to one another, was a beautiful moment. And him confiding in her at the time, such a beautiful moment. I loved her going to Alan and touching the side of his face and telling Corlys that him and his brother needs to be raised up and not hidden. We're talking to Rhaenyra about this, how the war started, all the way back to when Aemon got his eye cut. Loved it.
Soon they will not even remember what it was that began the war in the first place.
That is easy enough. They usurped my throne.
That is one answer. Or was it when the child was beheaded? Or when Aemon killed Luke? or when Luke took Aemon's eye.
Her last moment at Rook's Rest, we see her bond with Meleys, and then they go off to battle, was so meaningful to me because she accepted her fate. She turned around and decided to go out like a dragon rider, just like her daughter beforehand in season 1. Through their dragon or with their dragon. To me, I took it as it was the way that she wanted to go. Even though Rhaenys was a standout, I loved all the performances this season. I think from season 2 and the show in general, they get the best performances out of their actors, and this was no exception in this season as well. Regardless of how we feel about the writing in totality, the performances, everybody came to work. Acting from the episodes with the Greens was so good. Nothing heavy had affected Aegon II yet, or Aegon the Magnanimous. Showing Aegon and his willingness to help the small folk make a name for himself as a king of the people, for the people, but having Otto subvert those ideals for him not being into the politics that he wasn't ready for, was such a good point that they played on. Aegon going to Helena, and she brings up that the rats were going to be in the building. And he's like, him being lost, he's like, what the f is she talking about? It was super funny to me.
I'm afraid.
Don't be. They'd be fools to come with Vhagar protecting the city.
Not the dragons. The rats.
The fuck are you talking about? The fuck are you talking about?
The Queen is an enduring mystery. Is she not?
I enjoyed that moment a lot, and then also him wanting to have their son Jaehaerys with him in his vicinity was a great moment for him. And I love seeing Jaehaerys when he was teasing Tylan at the council meeting, and he was fond of his child just being in his presence. I thought that was really well done. But when the events of Blood and Cheese happened, I felt the horror in Helena's eyes was so connecting. We felt her fear and we felt her anxiety in that moment. Aegon's anger and sorrow was so effective.
Fire from the sky! This is war! I declare war! I declare war!
It allowed the actor and the character to be multi-dimensional in that time. We were seeing him destroying Viserys Model City, and it shows that Aegon is also destroying the realm. I enjoyed that correlation, and it's all based on hubris and emotion instead of what is best for the kingdom all in itself. So I enjoyed that visually metaphorical storytelling. With Aegon crying over the weight of everything, just weeping, and Alicent saw and turned around and showed her disdain for him was nasty work. The vulnerable moment with Aemon in his lowest point, being exposed literally and figuratively, was such an impactful moment for the trajectory of the season, for him and his interactions with his brother Aegon. Humiliated Aegon on the small council meeting when speaking High Valyrian was just a glimpse of his anger and his bitterness towards his brother. The events of Rook's Rest happened totally different in the book, but taking it as what the show was presenting for us, it was a perfect opportunity for Aemon to get his revenge. After the years of abuse from his brother, he was able to enact all that tension, anger, resentment, all of that was able to come out in that moment, and he took his brother out. I think that was very powerful within the show and powerful for storytelling. And a powerful image to me is when Crispin, it's a jab at him, for Crispin, Damon was calling him Crispin as a little joke, but when Crispin Cole, when he walks up and seeing Aemon put the sword away, right, and he leaves the ambiguity within that scene, was he going to finish the job of like finish killing his brother, or was it going to be a mercy ending in that scene? And I just love how it was ambiguous of what Cole was seeing when he walked up. And then in that scene, after we saw the battle damage that would happen to Aegon, to me, I felt like seeing Crispin Cole fall on his knees with the weight of shame was such great acting. The performance of the small folk after that episode was great too.
Hey guys, guess what? We killed a dragon. Look at it. Look at this dragon head. Isn't it cool? Yeah, aren't we like so cool? Yeah, look at this traitor fucking dragon. So basically you telling us dragons can die. And while we're here, what's in that box?
I love this season how there was a breakdown in the look of the small folk through the eyes of Ulf, Hugh, and Missandria, the White Worm. Ulf was the man of the people at the tavern. They supported him.
No, don't tell me you're going. I'm not going. Just get here. How'd you get here? Oh, come on, son. Turns out it was her sister. No one's ever told me.
The hurt, the anguish, and the struggle for Hugh is a major departure from the book, because in the book he's described as a brute with no family. We don't even get the whole backstory about who his mother might be. So for him, not only being a casualty of war, but he's also has his own character development with his own purpose was such an amazing highlight and great acting. I'ma just say this. Missandria and her arc, it was great. She was a great master of whispers with her spies in King's Landing. We'll leave it at that for now in the positives. And so another thing that I love was, or the last episode, you're gonna have to tell me, I don't remember, and it focused on Helena, Crispin, and Alan. To me was so rich in peak House of the Dragon. When Helena told Aemon of how he was going to end within their path or in their story, and then Aemon feeling the weight of the words was such a great moment, because it was heightened emotion between these two people with the hurt, dreams, anxiety. It just felt like a good culmination for a conversation and interaction for the both of them. And then looking at the nihilism of Christian Cole after his life and experience, with not only great writing but a great performance from that actor.
Or perhaps all men are corrupt, and true honor is a mist that melts in the morning.
That is a bleak philosophy.
I have no philosophy. Or rather, my philosophy was this: to protect the righteous and dispense justice on the rest. But now, you saw what I saw. The dragons dance, and men are like dust under their feet. And all our fine thoughts, all our endeavors are as nothing.
When Alan and Corlys had their confrontation, and Corlys came up to him like, "Why so glum, chum?" And he's like, "Yeah, some of the other dudes ain't liking your attitude." And then I just love, and then he just took off. He was like, "Yo, I got all this exposition of all these feelings and resentment that I haven't got to say. So now I'm gonna say it." And what I love so much is that Corlys allowed him to take off. He let that man divulge all that emotion and anger onto him to show his lack of involvement in their life.
Daddy wasn't there to take me to the fair. It seemed he died
I thought it was such a powerful, amazing scene. How could I skip out Otto when he chewed out Aegon and then they removed him for the rest of the season? And we are lesser for it.
The rat catchers!
Oh, I had them hanged. The maggot who took my son confessed to an accomplice. He could not say for certain which man it was, so...
Idiot!
Beware how you speak to your king, my lord.
The king is my grandson, and my grandson is a fool. He's worse than a fool. He's murdered innocent men.
And one guilty one.
And hanged them from the walls of the city for all to see.
Plot against the king and I will pay it back 100...
They are fathers and brothers and sons. And their wives and children gather now at our gates to weep and curse your name. With your child's blood, we bought their approval. With your mother's tears, we made a bitter sacrifice against the deprivations to come, and you've thrown it away. After all I've done for you, thoughtless, feckless, self-indulgent.
At least I did something.
Even now, news of Rhaenyra's monstrous crime spreads through the realm. The great houses falter. They cannot but come to our side.
I wish to spill blood, not ink. We must act. Sir Criston Cole has acted.
And what has Sir Criston Cole done?
He has sent Sir Arek to slay Rhaenyra.
Alone?
He's pretending to be his own twin. Brilliant.
Gods help us all. And you acceded to this prank without consulting me or the council. Instead of judgment, you display impetuousness and diminish us in the eyes of our enemy, ill-considered, trifling. You never think of your father, his forbearance, his judiciousness, his dignity.
Fuck dignity. I want revenge. My father is dead.
He is. And we are the poorer for it. He was right about you.
He made me king.
Is that what you think?
Another positive that I loved was the cinematography and the production this season. They made so many iconic shots and so many iconic moments that just really had me in awe during the season. In episode 5, the production for everything was so beautiful. So moving forward, I was watching the house that Dragons built. It was an offshoot show that talked about the production quality, and it gave a breakdown not only to the production style, but also the insight on how certain choices were made behind the scenes. For example, Paddy Considine, who came back, he was the actor who played Viserys. When he came back for the visions between him and Daemon, he did a lot of the acting choices that weren't in the script. Or when the Dragon Keepers on Dragonstone left, that was Rhaenyra's actress, that was her idea. So it could be in a place where she does the sowing of the seed alone, and the writers were okay with that. Or when Alan Hall was shaving his head, he brought his personal barber to consult and help with that scene. So I thought those insights were nice. Seeing how they created things with the shots and the sets and the CGI and the model building and scout locating was so good to see. And it really showed why the show takes 2 years for production, because it's so massive and it's so intricate on every major and minute detail. The production design for Harrenhal and the Twin Bridge and the architecture for Harrenhal and the God's Eye and the Weirwood Tree was so amazing to me. When it came to the cinematography, those long, wide poster shots were incredible. When Rhaenyra was on Dragonstone with her new dragons and with her own was such magic. When Rhaenyra confronted Adam with these two warriors or gunslingers facing one another on the beach was such an impressive shot during the sowing of the seeds, and that was my favorite episode of the season. But for them to follow Hugh running through the carnage and the chaos of the onslaught from Vermithor was amazing to me. From viewing it, it was so immersive from that point of view, and then watching the production show on how they filmed it, and it was filmed as one shot, no edits. It was mind-blowing to me. That made me really have reverence for that particular episode. And the only thing that they did in that episode was they only rehearsed the path of how the actor was going to run. So it made it entertaining and authentic for the scene, and I loved it. Now, how could I forget the poster moment of the season? The moment that crafted the entire, marketing for the show is when Rhaenyra summoned Vermithor for the sowing of the seeds. That scene, that cinematography, everything that they made, function and craft into that scene was pure magic. That was another positive for me, is when they did that and she called forth Vermithor, and with her doing it, it made that scene totally iconic for the season.
Naijot Maziz Vermithor. Likiri Dohairas.
I also love the costumes this season. Rhaenyra's battle outfit that was strapped around her, loved it. That was dressed in all black. Alicent was back in her baby blues that was in from season 1. Different dress, different design, but I love that she had it on. And when she went to go see Rhaenyra, and I love the character note of her biting her nails in her anxiety, because that's something that she did from season 1. So I love that attention to detail. And Otto in his outfit, when he charged up Aegon, I love the black and the green that he had on. And then also, I forgot, we cannot forget my dude Simon Strong with the Restaurossi Versace. Simon Strong had the case of the TMS, too much swag.
I got drip for sale. 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 I got drip for sale.
Now, getting into the negatives, there were quite apparent to me. I don't know for others, but for me, it was the loss in adaptation. Taking away so much of the story from the source material made the season just okay and not great. I think getting rid of Mikhail Sopotnik, who was the part of the writing team, he was one of the showrunners, hurt the show greatly. You can tell he cared about the story. This world he directed the Battle of the Bastards. He was part of the OG series. So it seems like to me, removing him, the tonal shift of the season, he was definitely a major factor into that. For me, the lack of Cregan and Jace in the story was so disappointing. The story is not only pivotal for the Dance of Dragons, but also for the story of Westeros. They make their pact of ice and fire from their bond and from their relationship and their friendship. I enjoyed that time when Jace was in the North in the book, and to only have that scene only 2 minutes or less, it was really disappointing to me. They take away so much of how they spend time with one another, and also Jace goes off low-key, marries that man's sister, and the thing is, the things that are coming for Jace, that took away a lot of his character development. Did we have a lot of him within the season? Sure, we did, but we had less of what more could be impactful for us as an audience of how his story goes, from me coming as a book reader. And I feel like taking that away from him lessened what it was, and him being so much grounded at Dragonstone, it just took away his agency to me. Not only that the North remembers, but Cregan was in a little skirmish, a little coup, civil war, because his uncle did not want to give up the throne, because he was the regent before Cregan was able to become of age. He didn't want to abdicate, his uncle did it. But Cregan became of age and he became victorious in that skirmish. And so with that happening to him, he understood what that was like. So that was another added reason for him to be sided with Rhaenyra from someone who was in the family who wanted to usurp the throne. So that was another connection in why he wanted to ally himself with the side of the blacks. Getting rid of moral ambiguity also hurt the show. And the book is really being told that either side will stoop so low or be deplorable people for their fight for power. The show really paints the Greens as the bad guys and the blacks as the good guys, to have us to go to a side or try to appease Rhaenyra. She is not magnanimous in the book or altruistic. She's obsessive and compulsive, and the only end goal for her is to covet the throne. Also, in the book, Alicent is cold and calculating, and she loves her children. From season 1, she stood in front of Meleys to protect Aegon. But now in the show, she wants to give up her sons? That doesn't make any sense to me. When she tells Aegon his life is in jeopardy for being born from Rhaenyra. In season 1, when she got upset with Rhaenyra at the dinner, should have been the trajectory of her character.
Sacrifice is trampled under your pretty foot again.
Release the blade, Alicent.
And now you take my son's eye, and to even that you feel entitled. Exhausting, wasn't it? Hiding beneath the cloak of your own righteousness. But now they see you as you are.
Her rule as Queen Regent or Queen Mother was focused and deliberate, and is also on protecting her kids and winning the war. They removed all of that gumption out of Alicent this season. I'm very happy for Helena and the actress to remain on the show, but the story is very much a tragedy. You shouldn't be attached to none of these characters. All of them have tragic lives. What's different is not having her go into madness is baffling. After the events of Blood and Cheese, Rhaenyra becomes a recluse, and I would have enjoyed to see Alicent contend with that and the family deal with those heavy events, and how it all gets into motion and how they deal with their emotions. To see, like, even with her to have her dreams and to be prophetic, to have her become further removed after those events, I felt like that would have been just as impactful, but she seems to have her wherewithal during this entire season after those events. I like the war crimes and I like the political discourse that was happening in Harrenhal and the Riverlands, but the visions for Daemon could have been just one episode, not the entire season. The book says he's immune to Alice River's powers. In the book, him and Caraxes just show up and tell them to bend the knee. But for television's sake, I would have loved the pushback like we saw from the other River Lords. Daemon has selfish loyalty, and he's the rogue prince. Out of all the characters, he needed to be in the gray. He never betrays Rhaenyra in the book in the sense for the fights for the throne. He accepts his reality, but being a womanizer, that's in his spirit. And speaking of him being a womanizer, they've removed a rumored lover of Nettles. I'm so upset behind her removal. She's so important to the story. She's the writer of Sheepstealer, and it's not Rayla. Sheepstealer is one of 3 wild dragons, and they were on Dragonstone. The other was Grey Ghost, and the other one was called Cannibal. So in the book, Nettles knew of the calling of the Dragon Seas and what could be gained with that. So she used her wits and her ingenuity to feed Sheepstealer, and when she keeps feeding Sheepstealer, which she gains the dragon's trust. That kind of gumption got Daemon's attention. They end up flying off and going on a battle together. She goes through one battle, and that battle affected her. But Daemon got attracted to the fact that not only she sees the dragon, but also that she is willing to do what's necessary of her. She didn't have any casualties in that battle, but she did go out, and that affected her a lot. But with Nettles, that brought the jealousy out of Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra wanted her dead. Daemon stayed around to keep her protected, and Nettles was to live after the dance, and she flew off. But if she was added to the show, it would bring more weight to Jason's worry about anyone riding a dragon.
Heir to the Dunfall, these people are courageous. Mongrels.
Jace, think what is at stake.
I know well what is at stake. House Targaryen is the blood of the dragon. If any may lay claim to it, what are we then?
I hate the lack of Daeron the Daring, who's the youngest child of Alicent and Viserys. They teased him all season. What happened to Aegon and his nephew Jaehaerys makes him come into the story. He takes command of the army under Aemon. His first battle at Honeywine should have been in the season. We should have seen him. We should have seen him get his name, Daeron the Daring, from his uncle. He's a young man that's chivalrous. He has a spine, and he's a valiant character for Team Green. Not seeing him this season, only just to have him for a glimpse of him into Sarion, he just would have been a breath of fresh air for the next 2 seasons. I hated that Corlys just got over Rhaenys' death. We showed him grieving, right? And he was in his lonesome grieving, and as a only child, or raised as an only child, and also being a Cancer, I fully understand you have to be alone in your thoughts to process things. So I understand that. But in the book, Corlys is furious with Rhaenyra, and he gives her a tongue lashing, and he blames Rhaenyra not only for Rhaenys' death, but also for Luke and Laenor as well. And I just feel like that conflict within her council, within the Blacks, would have, with such a powerful ally, would have been so rich to just amplify this season even more. Now, back to Miss Andrea. The kiss, the infamous kiss. The kiss was out of left field. Now, there's only one line in the dance that says Daemon and Rhaenyra share their bed with the White Worm, and that's only rumor, and that's it. So it was really no reason, not even in the narrative, for that kiss to happen. It didn't make any sense. She told Rhaenyra she had a horrible upbringing with traumatic events. That wasn't the time for them to start having their makeout session. I just didn't like that. And then for me, another issue was cutting the season short. The season finale felt like episode 8, and it did not feel like a finale. I know that there were budgetary reasons for cutting the season so much, but everyone from the higher ups to the creators and to us as the viewers, it really hurt the season and it gave it a loss and not a W. Now, what I also think was another issue that G.R.R. Martin just brought up, that he said in a tweet or a blog post, but it just came out, and I want to spin that for y'all. And I think this was a major factor to what hurt the season as well. G.R.R. Martin, he calls out producers and screenwriters that change things from the books. He says this: everywhere you look, there are more screenwriters and producers eager to take great stories and make them their own. It does not seem to matter whether the source material is written by Stan Lee, Ian Fleming, Ronald Dahl, Ursula K. Le Guin, J.R.R. Tolkien, Mark Twain, Jane Austen, or, well, anyone. No matter how major a writer is, no matter how great the book, there's always seems to be someone on hand who thinks that they can do it better, eager to take the story and quote-unquote improve on it. The book is the book, the film is the film. They will tell you as if they were saying something profound. Then they make the story their own, and they never make it better. 999 times out of 1,000, they make it worse. So I think to close out, there's some highs, there's some lows throughout the season. I think the pacing was off. I think it wasn't a cohesive narrative. I understand creative liberties, but straying away so far from the source material is only shooting the creators and the series in the foot. They did that already with their predecessor of season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones, which was at a time high-end television, must-see television, marquee television that everybody wanted to flock to, and it had everybody in a chokehold. And House of the Dragon should have their source material, add to the source material, but not deviate from the source material. Season 3 of House of the Dragon should be, hopefully, fingers crossed, a return to form. Thanks for sitting down and having this cup of coffee with me, letting me spill my thoughts over a cup of coffee. But now it's your turn. Let me know. Let's continue the conversation down in the bottom in the comments. But tell me your thoughts of House of Dragon. And until next time, I want you to be you, do you, see the bigger picture. Have a fantastic day, because you deserve it. This is that channel. Peace.
Mouth on top, Kung Fu, Bruce Lee chop, moon rocks, go Red Sox, tryna go far like Boondocks, headshot, blunt stay hot, talking shit, gotta pull up on they block, you fraud, I'm Couchgod, know you got a tax like a state charge, safe house, safe house, safe house.